Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Great Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Well, here it is, another Wednesday, and today I have for you the topic, you are a part of Goddess, and Goddess is a part of you. And I just want to say that the last few days I've been learning so much. I've been studying so hard and learning so much. I've been learning about, I got like 3 books on the ACTs from the library. And I've been studying hard. I've been learning, I've been teaching myself about DVD and CD authoring, which is very important to me. And someday I would like to release some DVDs and CDs about Goddess and all about file formats and everything I can find. But for now, let's focus on the subject of you are a part of Goddess and Goddess is a part of you. Now, we all know that we have a divine spark within us. We don't know the nature of the divine spark. We don't know where it comes from, but we know that we have a divine spark. And this doesn't make us gods or goddesses in our own right, because that would imply a level of sophistication and power and perfection, in a word, that humans do not possess, which is obvious. But as far as there really is no such thing as perfection, because it is a value judgment. That perfection is a value judgment, so there's really no such thing. But it is a concept that can be helpful when we're striving toward, for example, moral values, trying to be good people and be the best people we can be and be nonviolent. Striving toward that is a form of perfection seeking, even though there's really no such thing as an ideal or perfect moral state. But we're not gods or goddesses, obviously, but we do have a divine spark. Now the real question is, where does this divine spark come from? Okay, and we would all like to know where the divine spark comes from. We would like to know its source. Well, I'll tell you what that divine spark is and what its source is right now. Goddess, or God if you're a male God worshiper. Goddess created us, created our spirits out of her own essential matter. Now, how did she do this? How could she create us out of her own essential matter? Well, it might sound complicated, it might sound hard, but it's sort of the same process as how a baby is created and born out of its mother's essential matter. It's born from an egg that comes from its mother, and that egg is fertilized, and then the egg grows inside the mother after it comes from the mother. And so basically the cell for the baby comes from the mother. And then the cell grows inside the mother until it's ready to be born. And then it's born, it sort of hatches. It hatches out of the mother and comes out of the mother's body and comes forth into the world. And this is the way that Goddess, sort of the way that Goddess created us, only we weren't born from cells from Goddess. We were born of spirit from Goddess. And that's sort of like essences of soul. It's a sort of an essence. And it's not the same thing as energy, although energy is generated and energy is involved. The soul is an essence. So we were born from her essence and her spirit matter. And she created us out of this spirit matter that came from her. She separated parts of herself and took parts of herself and made us. Now there's still plenty of goddess left over to do goddess things. But part of her lives in us. Part of her lives in us. And she gives us the energy for our daily activities. And she gives us the energy to walk around and breathe and think and everything we do. None of that would be possible if the spirit wasn't connected to the matter. In fact, the body would just go into a coma and it would die eventually after a while, because without a connection to spirit, matter can't survive as living. And if you doubt that, even the corn, even plants have spirit energy in them. That's a different kind of spirit energy, but it's still spirit energy. And there is a spirit of the corn. Plants do have some rudimentary feelings. They don't feel pain, but they do have sensibilities. So if there's poison, they shudder and they crumple up, and they begin to die. And if there's music playing, and even if it's loud rock and roll music, plants seem to do well on that. They like classical, they like rock and roll, they like all sorts of kind of music. And so there is an essential spirit running all through all living things, through all living organisms. And this spirit comes from Goddess. And what can we say about this essence of soul, or this spirit matter that comes from Goddess? Well, it's her divine spark, and even though it's not energy, we can think of it as similar to energy. It glows, it flows, but it's sort of kind of like all the different kinds of elements combined. It's sort of like a liquid too, because it congeals and it stays in one place. It doesn't just radiate outward and be dispersed like energy is. It congeals and it stays, but it also glows like energy, and it gives off its own energy, and it can also form into a it does have wavelength. Wavelength is one of its properties, but it does form into like a human form. So your spirit body or your soul looks very similar to your physical body, but it can really assume any form it wants to. It can assume a variety of forms and colors and textures. It can assume a variety of forms, and it can be molded in the shape of the physical body that it was in. So suppose you were born one life as a chicken, and you weren't born as anything else any other lives, just chicken. Well, when your spirit comes out of that chicken body, it's going to look like a chicken. It's going to have feathers. It's going to look silky, like you could touch it. It's going to be warm, like a chicken's body is. And it's going to have a beak and bright eyes and a cock's comb. It's going to look like a lot like a chicken, okay? And it's even going to have physical structure inside similar to the chicken had. So that's one of the things about spirit. It's very malleable, and it can change form. But embodied within spirit is a will. a mind and willpower, and all spirits have free will. So within this mind of this spirit, all spirit is intelligent, but organized spirit that's formed into a human being is more intelligent than, say, plant or animal life. Definitely more intelligent than plant life, but slightly more intelligent than animal life. And all sorts of spirits have this essential essential matter, and also a mind, organized into a mind with thoughts, with feelings, with ideas. And ideas are generated from, now you're not bound by the ideas, but ideas have a very important place in your life. So ideas are generated from spirit, and spirit is infinitely creative, so we're co-creators with Goddess. Goddess gave us the ability to create just like she did. And so we co-create with Goddess. We also create. And we have that ability because we're a part of Goddess and she's creative. So we can create just like Goddess. So those are some of the basics of spirit and spirit matter, and the way in which spirit forms into human beings, and how it has a spectrum, all different wavelengths that are unique to that spirit, and the ideas that the spirit generates, the energy that a spirit generates, and the essential stuff of spirit is embodied in us. I'm Sarah Jane Alpha Wolf signing off. If you have any more questions about spirit, just leave me questions in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions.